Hello and welcome to Book Talk with Kara. Today I am so excited because I have my friend Connie Mann on with me and we are going to talk about her books. But before we do, Connie, do you want to take just a moment to introduce yourself?
Well, hi, everybody. I'm so glad to be here. I'm Connie Mann, and I am the author of The Crown Conspiracy and the upcoming Liar's Treasure that comes out next year in March. Both for Tyndale Publishers. And so I'm just delighted to be here. This will be, let's see, this will be my 10th novel. So I've been writing books for a while. I've written some Florida set ones. I live in Florida. And when I'm not writing books, I'm a licensed U.S. Coast Guard captain. So that means I have a license from the Coast Guard. I'm not in the Coast Guard, but I get to drive a boat. I get to take guests from all over the world on dolphin tours. So it's as fun as it sounds. And yeah, that's what I do.
I love it. The idea of taking people to play with dolphins just sounds so much fun.
Yeah, yeah. They don't get to get off the boat. They're not allowed to get near them, but we get to go see them, and it's just really cool. And people ask, how does writing go with being a captain? And the answer is because back when I started writing, I had gotten so many rejection letters of my books that I said, if I don't get out of my office for a little bit, I'm going to lose what's left of my ever loving mind. So I heard that Silver Springs, where they have glass bottom boats and stuff, was hiring captains. And I said, yes, please. And
Yeah.
found out I love it. I've had a captain's license almost 20 years now. And it's been a great balance where I get my people time, I'm outside in nature, and then I get to go back in my writing cave. So that has always worked really well as a balance. So we moved to the east coast of Florida about 4 years ago, and now I do dolphin tours. So for the Marine Discovery Center in New Smyrna Beach, if anybody's interested. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's so cool. And I love that because I don't know if you're an extrovert like I am, but if all I did was write, I
yeah,
would shrivel up and die.
yeah.
So I need that balance of having the day job where I go out and I'm with people and then I get to play with my characters when I'm not doing that.
That is exactly it. Yes, it works for people like you and me. That works really well because I could not do just write full time. I would lose my mind. I need people.
Yeah, yeah. I feel you. And I think we're kind of unique among writers because a
Yes,
lot of writers are like, "Oh, give me my computer
yes.
and my, fictional characters, and I am so happy. I don't need anything else."
Right,
Um,
right.
but fortunately for us, you like both
I do.
because you've got The Crown Conspiracy and I got to read The Liar's Treasure that doesn't come out until March because I got to read it for endorsement and it was so good. I loved it, loved it, loved it. But this series is so fun. You have characters running all over Europe, and it was so much fun because I was like, "Oh, I've been there. Oh, I've been
Yeah.
there." And then there were places I'm like, "Oh, now I need to add that to my need to travel there list of places to go." How did you come up with the idea? Because this isn't just I mean, it feels kinda like Ocean's 11 or the Thomas Crown Affair or something like that. It's very much kind of a caperish type of feel, but it's much more than that. So, how did you get the original What If?
Yeah, so it's something I noodled around with for a long time, and I wasn't sure I had the skills to write a sort of a group cast, right? Because it's more than just your hero heroine. It's a bunch of people. So that's a little more. And I wasn't sure I was ready to do it yet, but the idea came because I've always been a big fan of like Clive Cussler and Dan Brown
Mhm.
and some of these, and I was like, how come they're always written by guys? And they have guys that are the heroes and guys that are saving the day. I want
Mhm.
a group of women who are saving the day, who are the heroines, who are taking names and getting stuff done. But I also didn't want to go dark, right? So I started writing it during COVID and I said, okay, there's enough dark in this world. I want it to be have some really cool themes underneath, some serious, but also just be a fun read, right? Take readers on an adventure. And also, hopefully, my really big underlying goal is to encourage women to be, be all you can be, right? That used to be the slogan for the military. But just the idea that sometimes we get caught thinking we have to think small. We have to think of our world as small. But uh, and these ladies are not super talented, right? They can't, see the future or whatever. They're regular people with a certain set of skills that are just doing stuff to help other people. And I thought most women can do that. And I wanted to encourage women to just go do stuff and get your tribe, get your team of women and form your own little team and go make a difference. Go do stuff. And that really was for me the motivation behind it is to encourage women to just like step out of your comfort zone. You've got the skills, you've got what you need. Just do stuff. And that I hope comes through because that was kind of what it was about and still is for the second book of just regular people, but they're passionate about something and they do it. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I love it because they really are to a large extent. There's one woman who's behind kind of the computers who feels
Yeah.
like she does maybe have some super skills, but
Yeah.
the rest of them, for the most part,
Yeah.
just are, these, I mean, they're not totally average, but they're doing regular kinds of things. And then they all come together. And when they put all their skills together, it kind of supersizes everything. And they get to um, do things at a different level, which is so fun. And they're working on kind of fixing wrongs, fixing problems, which is what
Right.
women are so good at anyway.
Yeah.
And so I loved it because it feels like Ocean's 8, which is a all-female cast after Ocean's 11, 12, and 13.
Right.
It was like finally women got their day.
Right.
And so it has kind of that kind of feel too, where it's like, all right, we're kind of going out there kicking butt and taking names, but doing it in a way that's different. It feels different. Like I love Daniel Silva's series with Gabriel
Yeah.
Allon, but it
Yeah.
feels different from that because that still has a lot of like heavy duty action
Right.
and almost brutality on occasion. That I'm like, I couldn't write that, or I don't want to write that.
Right. I didn't want to go that far, but I wanted that same feel of adventure and cool stuff happening and cool places and locations and this awesome group of women you can cheer and root for that are getting stuff done,
Yeah,
without the dark part of it. So that was
yeah.
the goal and I had a lot of fun writing it.
Well, I think you definitely accomplished that with The Crown Conspiracy and then with Liar's Treasure, which is coming out. So this one I also loved, The Crown Conspiracy, because it has another one of my loves in it. Not only is it set primarily in Europe, it also has art
Yeah.
and lots of art in it. So why that?
Well, research, right? I think you probably have the same problem where you can fall down the rabbit hole and just
Yeah.
cool stuff. And I've always been, I don't know art very well, so I'm not an expert by any means. I know what I like, right? But I've always been fascinated with the idea of forgery, right?
Mhm.
And just the idea of how do people do it? And so I kind of went way down the research rabbit hole of, like the idea that people don't usually a forger doesn't get caught because of copying a painting, but they create another painting in the style of somebody else that's not too famous, so it's not too much of a spotlight. And that whole idea just fascinated me of researching some guy that was doing this for 40 years, and you're like, I just was fascinated, or how they find out it's forged based on what's not there rather than what is, and some of that. And I was studying all the canvas and types of paints, and and
Yeah,
then
getting it from the right time period and what
yes,
pigment is in there. Oh, that's not what they would have had back in the 1500s and all
yeah,
of that.
oh yeah, and then finding out there's people whose career it is to copy famous paintings so that folks can hang it on the wall and keep the original somewhere locked away safe so it won't get destroyed, which I also find very interesting. So it was just very fun. And of course, I had all kinds of that stuff in the first draft. And then I was like, yeah, nobody but me really wants to go this far down into all that. So I had to take a bunch of that out, just give the highlights, but it was fun. It was very fun.
So, when you think about this, though, what made you the right person to do this? I mean, out of all the writers, out of all the stories, why this one for you?
I think it brought together for me a lot of the things I love, right? I'm a captain, so of course there's boat chases. There's always boats in my books, right? That's just part of it. And the idea of women and adventure and traveling, which is a huge love of mine. So I felt like I said, what if I take all the things I love and put them together in this group of women, which I think would be so cool to have just a team. And so I felt like I got to take all of my favorite things. This is should be called Connie's favorite things. Just
I love that.
things I love.
So, when you're talking about this, and you're putting all your favorite things together and you're doing all this research,
Mhm.
which it can be so much fun. And there's
Oh, yeah.
so much chance for all the rabbit trails. I've
Oh,
had
yeah.
times when my husband's like, "Are you sure you're writing? Because it sounds like you're not. There's no tapping going on over there." I'm like, "Yes, this all counts. Trust
Yeah.
me, it counts."
Me too.
Um, What's something that you learned during the research that you couldn't actually include, but you were like, "This is so fascinating. I think everybody would love it," but no, it's just gonna really bog down the story.
Yeah, I think that's part of the whole thing about all the different paints and time periods and x-ray machines that they use, and I just wanted to get more of that in there, and I finally was like, "Okay, fine. I can't do that." And it happened even more with this one
Yeah.
where some of the history of poisons is all I'll say about that, but that was fascinating too, and I was like, "Okay, I can't use all of it." So I feel like sometimes then we have to cherry pick, like, which are the coolest little facets of, 2 weeks of research on this one tiny little thing I did that I can put in without getting people to go, "Yeah, whatever," and flip through pages, because nobody cares like I do, right? So to me, that was it. It was the paints and the canvases and how they stretched them and how you know which time period it is. And finally, I had to say, probably nobody cares about all of this. so let me take some of that out and just put the critical piece in.
Yeah, I remember for one of my books, because I have several that deal with art in
Yeah,
them, and for one of them, I learned that, like, there was this guy who his gift to the Louvre was all the, frames. So, like, actually picking the frames that would go with the paintings, like, he would just go to antique stores, and he would find frames that matched the time period for
yeah.
the painting, and he would donate those to the Louvre and other art museums, and that's, like, what he did, and I was like, "That's so crazy," but when we go to museums today and we see all these elaborate frames, it
Yeah.
was that wasn't even a thing until the 1920s when he started that, and I was like,
Oh,
yeah,
fascinating. Yeah,
I was like, "That is so cool," because I just go to these museums and I assume that that's what some of them they did come with those frames, and
right.
some of them they didn't, they matched them after the fact. Like, who
Who
knew?
knew? I know. I love moments like that. Who knew?
Yeah, and like, "Okay, so that's my donation, here's another old frame, have fun."
Wow. That is pretty cool. That is pretty cool.
So, when you think about all of this and the books you've written and all of that, what's your biggest challenge as you're writing? Is it the writing? Is it all the other things that you're supposed to be doing so that you can write? I mean, what's your biggest challenge as an author?
Can I say marketing?
Yeah, yeah, you sure can.
Yeah, I'd rather write 10 books than market one. It's just the hardest thing in the world for me to say, "Hey, nice to meet you, buy my book." I can't, that's just not my personality. So it's really hard. That part has always been very, very hard. The writing is easier than that part. But when it comes to the writing part of it, I think the hardest is when it's time to edit.
Mm,
Right? To what do you kill off your darlings, right? As Stephen King says, what do you cut out? What do you get rid of to make it all flow? And sometimes that's just hard. That's just
yeah.
hard.
Yeah, there have been books that I've sent into my editors, and I've been like, "I know it's fat and fluffy, but I just don't know what to cut. I've
Yeah,
tried to figure it out, and I can't figure it out. That's why you're here."
exactly.
And
Exactly.
sometimes they've been like, "There's nothing to cut," and I've been like, "Okay." And other times they've been like, "Yeah, this has to come out," and I've been like, "Oh, okay."
Right.
But that's why there are editors, to help us figure that out.
Yes, exactly. Or the one, copy editors, they had me change something in one draft, and then all of a sudden the copy editor goes, "Excuse me, we now have a timeline problem." I was like,
Yeah. "But you made me take this out."
right, but you already had me get rid of that, so now it's gonna, oh golly. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's the worst, I think, the timeline when I will say that when I'm in, like, I had a big thing on my bulletin board. What time is it in Italy if it's this time over here and this time over here? Because otherwise, the day night thing, ugh, can get you in big trouble.
Yes. Yeah. Especially because you have people
In
in the
different
States and in Europe, and then like in Eastern Europe, which
right,
can trip over into the other time zone. A lot of Europe's in the same time zone, but not all of it. And
right.
so it can get tricky. It can get
It
real tricky.
and I'm always like, "Please don't anybody look too closely at that."
It's fiction. We tried.
Fast.
So when did you know that you were a writer? Was there like this moment, or was it something that you just always known that, hey, from the moment you were in third grade, you were going to be a writer?
Well, I did aspire to writing in 3rd grade when I wrote Susie's Babies about my hamster. It's
Oh,
my first novel. But I've always wanted to write books as a kid. They were my safe place. They were, right, the place where I could travel without leaving home, right? The idea of
hmm,
share travel, and libraries are always my safe place. So I've always loved books and wanted to be a writer, but the truth is I didn't feel like I was confident enough to even try. So I came at it through the back end of it, and got my first job as proofreading Yellow Page ads back when that was still a thing.
oh, wow.
And learned to write copy for newsletters, and then worked for a marketing company writing newsletters, and then wrote parenting articles, wrote a parenting book back in the day, became the editor of a parenting magazine, and then I finally mustered up enough courage to try fiction. So, and that of course didn't that's why I'm a captain, because that didn't initially go well either with rejection letters. But yeah, I didn't and if I had something I could tell my younger self, it would be have some more confidence in yourself.
Mm.
Just take the chance and do it. But I was so afraid of rejection, and then had to learn that that's part of the gig and you have to do that anyway. So I could have started a lot sooner.
Yeah. Wow. So you did have lots of different experiences and being an editor and all of that. That would help with the writing, though, to have
It
had all of those.
It did. It really did, and I laugh because my first job for the parenting magazine, they, wrote articles and they paid me in movie tickets. So, you have to start somewhere.
Yeah,
Pretty small
absolutely.
publication. And eventually I became the editor of it and I got actual cash money. But, it was a learning. Yeah. And I don't think any of it was wasted, but there's a
Yeah,
part of me that says, but the fiction was the real dream. And I was going around it because I was afraid. And I'd say, stop being so afraid and just
yeah,
go for it. And that would be my advice to my younger self and to anybody else, to say, don't sidestep it. Don't keep stalling. Just start. Just do the
yeah.
thing. Go after the dream. Just do it.
Yeah, I love that, but I also love because I was thinking that, and then you said it, but none of it's wasted.
No.
Even as you were tiptoeing around what you really wanted to do, God was still getting you the experience that was gonna help get you closer when you did say, "Okay, I'm gonna actually try this. I'm gonna actually go after it."
Yep.
So I love
Yep.
that, that there's still redemption in the going around the mountain until you're like, "Okay, now I'm gonna go over it, and I'm
E
gonna actually go after this thing."
exactly. Yep. He's very gracious that way, and he doesn't waste it. And he's like, "Come on, you got this. Keep going. Keep going."
Yeah.
You know,
No, I
he's
love
patient.
that.
He's very patient with us.
He is. And I love that as you love traveling, he's now giving you opportunities to travel and use all that experience in writing. So you're going somewhere in a couple of weeks. What are you
Yes.
doing?
We are so excited. My husband and I, along with Sarah Goff and 2 other people, are going to Kenya. And we help support a small nonprofit that's helping support some schools there. So we're going to an all-girls school, a non-girls school, and also Kaneni Stars Day School, which is an elementary school for boys and girls, a day school. And I get to teach some creative writing to some kids in Kenya, which is
I
just
love
blowing
that.
my mind. And I'm just beyond excited to get to encourage them that way. And hubby gets to teach some science because he's the science guy. And everyone has a little something we'll do, and we'll rotate, and we'll spend 4 or 5 days at the 2 different schools, and then also visit another one. And then after that, we get to go on safari and see some cool animals out in the wild. So that's also right up our alley. So we feel like God has opened up that door and that possibility, which has been a bucket list dream of mine like my whole life. So
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just
so cool.
so
And
excited.
I wouldn't be surprised if you end up with a book set in Kenya out of this.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, not at all. And it's so cool how, again, another one of those heart dreams and desires, and now it's coming to fruition. So I love that for you.
Thank you.
So when you're writing these books, um, and you're not doing research like going to Kenya,
Right.
which I
Right.
just know that's going to come up in one of your books someday. It's because like Crown Conspiracy and the Liar's Treasure, those hop so many different places. It would be so easy to put Kenya in one of them. How many hours are you one of those who writes for like a chunk of time, or do you just like focus when the deadline's looming? How do you do that?
So both. I'm a deadline girl for sure.
Mhm.
Nothing happens without a deadline. So, during the brainstorming stage, I have to set deadlines because I can do that for the next 5 years, right? When I'm just ideas are flying, and that's just fun and easy. When it's time to actually write the first draft, I'm definitely a puke it out as fast as possible kind of girl. So then for drafting, it's like 2,000 words a day, 10,000 words a week until I get through the first draft, just to get the whole thing out of my head. And then I make some charts and start seeing where the holes are and what's missing, and then start the editing and all of that process. And then layering. I write in layers. So
Mhm.
it's like first the plot, and because, mysteries, right? So
Yeah.
I need a backbone. I need to know where we're going. And then sort of the characterization comes after that, where they're layered in more and other themes get layered in as I go. So, but that first draft where I got to get it out of my head, I'm like, honey, you got to ask me every day. And he comes in the door and goes, all right, we get your 2,000 words. And sometimes those 2,000 words would get written in the last hour and a half before he got home from work, right? Because nothing motivates me like a deadline and knowing somebody's going to ask me if I got it done. So then that's the hardest
Yeah.
part for me, is just get that momentum going and get that out there so I have something to work with. So if,
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. And especially like with mysteries, you have to get kind of that
uh
outline of, okay, this is where we're going. And then you can start pulling out and go, oh, I see this layer in here. Now let's pull that to the surface. Or, oh, this is a cardboard character. We've got to add some more to them and all of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you do the same kind of way. It seems like,
Yeah. I tend to, I put a lot of time into the first probably 20,000 words.
okay.
And then I fly.
Okay.
And it's like that there's something about that first, like, 4 or 5 chapters is, like, really so that might be more like 10 to 12,000 words is, like, really hard for me, and then once I've got those down and I feel like I kinda have an idea of who the main characters are, then it's just like, "Okay, now let's go." But I'm normally 2,000 words a day,
Mhm.
and that's kind of a chapter for me, and so it's getting a chapter a day done and just kinda
Keep
clicking
going.
along, so,
Mm. Yeah, I understand. I usually rewrite the beginning, like, I think 6 or 7 times is about my average until it's right. So I
yeah.
finally learned to not stop for that. Just throw out what I think it's gonna be, go all the way through, and then I can come back and go, that's not right." And usually it's 5 or 6 times, maybe
Wow.
7, before I'm happy with the opening of where it starts. Like, for me, the hardest is
Yes.
the exact moment in time, where does my story actually start? And that can be shuffled, moved, it's a whole thing.
Yeah. Well, 'cause especially when you're writing suspense,
Yes,
you've
you know?
got to get I mean, how do you get the reader sucked in really
Yep,
the first 2 or 3 pages?
right.
And, you've gotta have that right. There's gotta be
Mm,
an emotional hook, there has to be the promise of what's to come, and all
right,
this stuff has to happen in the first, like, 2 pages.
right.
You're like, "There's
Without
so much."
without the info dump of too much
Yes.
information. There's the rub, is hook people in without giving them too much. And
Yeah. It's a lot. It's so much.
it
So
is.
much. So, yeah, it's a lot. Um, okay, so last question. If you could be mentored by a famous author, or really by any author, who would you pick?
Ooh, that is a good question. I think I might say Kristen Hanna.
Yeah,
I've always loved her books. The Women blew me away. Wow, that book just took me. And I don't know about you, but I always read the author's note. I usually read that
mhm.
first. I
I
want
love author's notes.
That's the first thing I read, before the book. But I love that she took time to feel like she was ready to tell this story the way she wanted to tell it. And I felt like that with the Crown Conspiracy, that I wasn't ready to do it, years ago yet. That for skills and for just being able to manage it. But I feel like she would be a cool mentor because she's very thoughtful and her books are amazing and they're all very different. And yeah, I would love to sit down and have a conversation with her and get mentored by her. I think that would be pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so The Crown Conspiracy is out now,
Yep.
and The Liar's Treasure is coming out early next year. So, where can people learn more about you and your books? Where can they find you?
My website is probably the best place to start is Connie Mann, MANN.com. All of my books are there. The Liar's Treasure will be up for pre-order on there pretty soon. And yeah, you can always find them there. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. You can always connect with me at either one of those platforms. I also do a monthly newsletter you can sign up for on my website that I offer some encouragement. I offer book recommendations. I offer just what's going on, what's new. Last newsletter has pictures of our new grandbaby. Just whatever's going on. If you want to know more, feel free to sign up. Also on my website, I do have a monthly contest where I give books away. So anyway, that's
Awesome.
you can find me, connieman.com.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for making time to join us. This was so fun. I just love talking about books, and it was so fun to talk about yours.
It was very fun. Thank you again for having me. I enjoyed every single minute of it. Thanks so much.